He wasn't supposed to be there, at least that's what they thought. A 16-year-old blind black boy, standing in the heart of New York's glittering elite, surrounded by people who had already decided his worth before he even touched a single key. They didn't see talent. They didn't see genius. They saw someone to mock, to humiliate, for sport. But in just a few moments, the air in that grand hall would change. Every whisper would fall silent, and those same people would witness something they could never forget. How did it happen? This is the night everything changed. Ethan Miller had grown up in a world where music was his escape. Blind since birth, he couldn't see the world's beauty, but he could hear it. In the rustle of leaves, the rhythm of footsteps, and the faint hum of the city at night. At 16, he was known in his small neighborhood for his quiet nature and the way his fingers danced across any piano he could find. He didn't have fancy lessons or expensive instruments, just an old, slightly out-of-tune upright at his school and the encouragement of his music teacher, who believed he was something rare. When his teacher invited him to a charity gala in Manhattan, Ethan thought it would be a night to simply listen, to soak in the performances of world-class musicians. He dressed in his best borrowed suit, unaware that he was walking into a room where every eye would size him up, and most would decide he didn't belong. Among the glittering chandeliers and whispered conversations of the city's elite, an undercurrent of tension hung in the air. Ethan couldn't see their stares, but he could feel them. What he didn't know was that the night's star performer, the man everyone had come to see, would soon single him out not to honor him, but to try and break him. The gala's main hall shimmered with gold light, the sound of crystal glasses clinking under the soft hum of conversations. Ethan sat quietly at a table near the back, his hands resting in his lap, listening to the room. He could tell who was smiling, who was bored, and who was faking interest, all from the tone of their voices. Then the music stopped. A hush fell. The announcer's voice boomed across the hall, introducing the evening's star. Alexander Grant, a world-renowned pianist whose career had filled concert halls for decades. The applause was deafening as he walked to the grand piano in the center of the stage. Ethan could hear the deliberate way Grant sat down, commanding the room's attention without a single word. The first piece was flawless. Every note shimmered, perfectly placed. The crowd erupted in admiration. Then, after a pause, Grant's voice broke the stillness. It was smooth, charming, but with an edge sharp enough to cut. "I hear," he said, "we have a young prodigy among us tonight, a blind pianist." His words rolled out slowly, inviting the audience to join in his amusement. "Why don't you come up here and play something for us? Just for fun." The room shifted. Ethan felt it. Some people chuckled softly. Others whispered in surprise. His teacher's hand tightened on his shoulder. This wasn't an invitation. It was a challenge, one made to entertain the room at his expense. Ethan stood, feeling hundreds of eyes follow him as he walked toward the stage. Each step felt heavier than the last. When he reached the piano, Grant leaned back in his chair, a smirk in his voice. "Let's see what you've got," he said, loud enough for the back of the hall to hear. Ethan sat, the smooth ivory keys under his fingertips like an old friend. But then he hesitated. The audience was waiting. He could hear faint murmurs, the shuffle of impatience. Somewhere in the crowd, someone whispered, "This is going to be awkward." In that moment, Ethan knew exactly what this was. They weren't expecting music. They were expecting failure, a harmless little moment of humiliation to amuse the room before the real show continued. What happened next would decide everything. If he faltered, he'd confirm every assumption they had about him. But if he truly played, he had the chance to turn the room on its head. He took a deep breath, feeling the world narrow to just him and the piano. Then his fingers began to move. The first notes spilled into the air, delicate, deliberate, alive. Bach's Partita No. 2 in C minor flowed from Ethan's fingers as if he'd been born with the music inside him. Every keystroke was precise. Every phrase breathed with emotion far beyond his years. The murmur of the crowd stopped almost instantly. Alexander Grant's smirk vanished. Ethan could feel the room change, though he couldn't see it. The stillness was electric, charged with disbelief. He played as if the grand piano itself had been waiting for him, soft passages whispering like secrets, thunderous chords shaking the air. The music swelled, each movement drawing the audience deeper into his world. But this wasn't just music, it was defiance. Every note was a refusal to be small, a rejection of the quiet box they tried to put him in. He didn't rush, didn't force it. He let the piece breathe, filling the hall with a truth that could not be mocked. In the front row, a woman's breath caught. Somewhere in the back, a chair creaked as someone leaned forward. Then the first tear fell, not from Ethan, but from the people who'd come expecting a spectacle and found themselves face to face with raw genius. As the final chord rang out, it seemed to hang in the air far longer than sound should. Ethan's hands rested lightly on the keys, his chest rising and falling. He had nothing left to prove, but in that moment he knew he'd proved everything. Silence. And then, applause that started slow, like a wave building strength, until it crashed into a roar that shook the chandeliers. And yet, beneath the thunder of hands clapping, Ethan could still hear it. The brittle, stunned quiet of the man who had tried to break him. When the final echoes of applause faded, something unspoken lingered in the room. People who had arrived expecting to be entertained left having witnessed something far greater. A reminder of what true artistry is, and who gets overlooked when prejudice clouds perception. Ethan's teacher stood beside him as donors, critics, and musicians approached, their words tangled between praise and shame. Many avoided mentioning the way they had looked at him before he played. But Ethan didn't need their apologies. The music had already said everything. That night, an unexpected announcement came from the event organizers. Ethan Miller was being offered a full scholarship to the Royal Conservatory. The crowd cheered, but in the corner of the room, Alexander Grant sat frozen. For the first time in years, the spotlight had moved away from him, and not because someone else had tried to steal it, but because he had handed it over, thinking it would burn the boy who now stood in triumph. In the months that followed, Ethan flourished. His name appeared in music journals and on concert programs. Each performance was a testament not just to his gift, but to the resilience of those who rise despite the weight of others' doubt. Alexander's career, however, began to wither. Bookings declined, interviews dried up, and whispers of his arrogance spread. But beyond the personal victories and losses, this story held a deeper truth. In every city, in every industry, there are Ethan's brilliant voices silenced by bias until they're forced to prove their humanity. And while talent can sometimes shatter prejudice in an instant, it should never have to. The question is, how many more will have to play their hearts out just to be seen as equals? What did you feel watching Ethan's journey, from being underestimated to proving them all wrong? If his story moved you, share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe more people need to hear stories like this, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more.